You stand at the edge of thought like a torch at midnight, and the darker the air around you, the further your light can travel. Yet have you noticed how brilliance first makes the shadows surge? The truth I place in your palm seems at once to comfort, and to cut her flesh quakes before the man who thinks. And the razor hidden in Nietzsche's pocket gleams only for the soul that dares to shave away illusion. You may wish to sheath it at once, as though philosophy were a polite parlour game and not a steel that tests sinew. But you were born for more than parlour games. Were you not, even now, as the bluish lamps along the cobbles flicker like timid heralds? I picture you pausing, half resolved to retreat into the nearest tea room and drown inquiry in cream and chatter. But imagine Augustine striding past with scrolls tucked beneath his robe, asking you without raising his voice, "What do you possess when you own yourself?" Hear Joan of Arc's footfalls, metallic and earnest, as she wonders whether courage is fire or fuel. Feel Wilberforce leaning over his cane, eyes bright as sunrise, murmuring that one ungoverned appetite can enslave an empire. Their lives speak. Do you listen? What aches within you is potential drafty as December wind. You have tasted the promise of mental majesty. You recall mornings when a single sentence from Homer or Isaiah lifted the ceiling of your day so high that birds could nest in the rafters of your resolve. Yet by noon you found yourself scrolling, nibbling, nodding, letting opinions drip upon your imagination like a leaking gutter that stains the fresco beneath. The distance between what might ascend and what actually shuffles is wider than the breadth between stars. Have you measured it? Drifting is not a storm. It is a silent, velvet tide that carries you seaward while singing lullabies. The price of drifting is the loss of deliberate shores. You awaken weeks, then winters later, to find castles of intention eroded to pitiful sandbanks where gulls argue over crumbs of conviction. You speak of destiny, yet polish the chain of routine that binds you to a post of triviality. Does it startle you when I say that negligence can feel merciful? It spares you decisive pain. It spares you the Nietzschean edge that would rather bleed toward truth than fester within comfort. So here I stand, lamp in hand, inviting you to the labour of re-enchantment. The citadel of thought is not restored by accident. Its gates rise only when imagination and reason forge hinges together. What if your mind were again a hall of stained glass, where each idea refracts the morning sun into new chromatic hymns? You recall childhood twilights when a wardrobe door, slightly ajar, suggested entire forests rustling just beyond the coats. Have you buried the key beneath the debris of grown-up correctness? Yet mind alone is a blunt instrument unless wedded to habits that incarnate its music. Standards, habits, mornings there. Friend is your battlefield. You rise at dawn and the cosmos waits for your first syllable. Will it be complaint or command? Consider the Roman centurion whose armour caught the first rays of day. His salute to the eastern horizon acknowledged an empire, but your salute may acknowledge eternity. You think you lack time. Time is not lacking. Attention is exiled. Rewire the circuit by binding mind to write a psalm before the kettle boils, a question before the news intrudes, a paragraph before your phone awakens. Watch Augustine again before he writes he weeps, for tears polish the lens of perception. Joan kneels on frosted straw, and her sword stays sheathed until prayer has heated the steel of intention. Wilberforce walks an hour in the fog, not to ponder abolition solely, but to behold how injustice first occurs in the lazy corridor of the heart. These exemplars are not marble myths. They are invitations printed in blood and ink, saying, "Join us. History is merely the diary of disciplined wonder." Embodied disciplines shape interior liturgies the way rivers carve valleys. Dawn vigils you rise while stars still chatter, and the darkness confesses its secrets to the patient lantern of your mind. Reasoned prayers you argue with heaven like Jacob wrestling, until blessing dawns as limp and halo alike. Deliberate silences you allow thought to echo until it either withers or deepens, refusing to mask emptiness with chatter. Imaginative rehearsals you walk the corridors of tomorrow's temptations before they arrive, laying snares for their defeat. Now drill into the title's molten core. Her flesh quakes before the man who thinks Nietzsche's hidden razor. Who is her, she is unchecked appetite, the bodily urge to prioritize comfort over clarity. She is also society, the collective nervous system that quivers when a single mind refuses to stroke its complacent fur. Nietzsche placed the razor in your hand, muttering that morality was a herd's hallucination. Yet the blade's truer edge is not to sever conscience, but to sharpen it. The razor is reason disciplined by love. Without that love, you slice arteries of meaning. With it, you pare illusions away until truth stands like marble, cold but alive. To reclaim mind is to patrol the ramparts of attention with lantern and trumpet, challenging every notion with Socratic password whence and why redeeming mornings is the alchemy of turning first light into first loyalty. Command is not tyranny. It is the deliberate orchestration of faculties so imagination sings harmony with intellect and will keeps time like a steadfast drum. You ask, is such command feasible for weary creatures of habit? I answer by signaling to Alfred the great lighting candles carved with careful lines that measured hours, so prayer and governance danced without collision. I motion to Teresa of Avila, spinning metaphors of crystal castles while scrubbing cloister floors, proving that the mop can be scepter if wielded by a luminous soul. I nod toward Frederick Douglass standing in the shipyard, teaching letters to men by tracing them on timber with chalk, redeeming oppression through the liturgy of alphabets. Calibration is contemplation. You sit with Aristotle, letting definitions sharpen. You linger with the Psalms, letting music marinade meaning. Slowly the cosmos arranges itself into constellations of duty and delight. You come to see that pleasure divorced from telos is a beggar's feast, loud, fast, and famished. Perhaps you fear the sternness of such rule. You recall Nietzsche warning that discipline can harden into ice of resentment. Very well, but ice may also chill wine of festivity when properly broken. The razor you dread can sculpt statues as well as scar skin. The quake can demolish prisons as well as palaces. Everything depends on the proportion of love infused. Therefore, let affection be architect. Love truth, and you will handle the blade like a barber, gentle, precise, fashioning dignity, not damage. Let mercy inform every incision. Let wonder guide every measurement. The legendary library behind me groans with tomes. but none can substitute for the scripture written daily by your deeds upon your own anatomy. You are parchment and pen alike. Ink wisely. You breathe in the chill of evening. Your breath steams like the very spirit of inquiry materializing. That vapor is momentary, but the choice it symbolizes may be eternal. What if the door you fear is indeed the door to joy? What if the razor glitters not with menace, but with morning? What if the quake signals structural realignment rather than collapse? Are you willing to test the foundations? Strike the bell. Sound leads into vaults of memory. If dust rains down, rejoice. Decay has been revealed before it could betray you in your sleep. Do you still hesitate? Then listen for the hush that falls whenever a human will aligns with cosmic benediction. It is the silence of swords returned to scabbards, of ravens ceasing their sermon of entropy. Into that pause you speak your first deliberate word, awake, and every sycamore leaf seems to tremble in response. Tremble, but also be transfigured. You do not abolish the body, you tune it to the pitch of truth, so its tremors herald symphonies of insight. Have you ever considered how the smallest gesture of governing will multiplies like yeast? You choose a measured sentence instead of a reckless sneer, and somewhere a stranger overhears, and his own vocabulary takes courage. You decline the clickbait midnight carnival, and a future invention gestates in the quiet you protected. You open Plato rather than placate boredom, and a forgotten virtue steps onto the stage wearing the cloak of relevance. One choice echoes, then a million, until philosophy ceases to be parlor speculation and becomes the architecture of neighborhoods. The skeptic may object that such chain reactions are fanciful, yet history's firm ledger testifies otherwise. Was it not Socrates who, by interrogating a few Athenian youths, sowed seeds that would bloom into republics and reformations? Was it not Anthony, hermit of the desert, whose disciplined solitude ignited monastic orders that nurse learning through centuries of chaos? Was it not Harriet Beecher Stowe who, by writing faithful to moral geometry, helped turn the rudder of civil war toward emancipation? Therefore, you must treat every habit as architecture and every thought as citizen. Some thoughts arrive as refugees, wounded by the tyrannies of cultural despair. Receive them, bandage them with truth, teach them the manners of hope. Other thoughts swagger as agitators, brandishing half-truths like daggers. Disarm them swiftly, confine them to the dungeons of scrutiny until they repent or perish. Your interior commonwealth deserves nothing less than vigilant border control and hospitable courts alike. This is how mornings become monasteries. You light a candle of focus, chant a psalm of intention, and the day's commerce marches to that liturgy. Emails that once lunged like harpies now perch quietly, waiting their ordained hour. Notifications that rang like gongs in a mad carnival now hush, like novices in cloister until the abbot of your will gestures. This is not mutiny against reality. It is the rightful hierarchy of faculties restored. Flesh will still quake, but now it quakes before awe, not anxiety. Do you see the reversal Nietzsche feared, that the rational man would emasculate instinct and freeze the dance of life? Yet when intellect bows to humility and imagination bows to charity, the dance accelerates, intricate, joyous. Instinct is not snuffed, it is conducted. The warrior beats the drum. The philosopher writes the score. The child within performs the choreography. Passion becomes pilgrim, not pirate. Desire becomes disciple, not despot. Look at your desk tonight. There is the book half read, the journal half written, the plan half kept. Does such incompletion mock you? Then answer its derision with decisive ceremony. Complete one thing, one paragraph, one letter of forgiveness, one theorem. Completion is a sacrament of sovereignty. It tells the cosmos you have donned the armor of wonder and will not leave the field until the standard of diligence flies above it. What follows is momentum, and momentum is mercy for the mind. Have you feared that all this language of razor and command sounds severe? Hear then the softer register. The governed life laughs more deeply. It notices the humor embedded in mathematics, the playfulness disguised in doctrine, the twinkle of eternity in puddles. Chesterton called laughter a fountain in paradise. Your disciplined soul repairs the plumbing that lets that fountain flow. When appetite serves rather than leads, taste buds sing grateful hosannas, and wine tastes of covenant again. When thought rides desire instead of being dragged by it, imagination becomes stallion of glad tidings rather than mule of malaise. Before I yield to the hush that will signal my task complete, peer once more into the architecture of decision. The cornerstone is identity. You are a creature whose glory and danger consist in freedom. The capstone is destiny. You are called to shape realities that outlive sunsets. Between them stretch the beams of practice study, silence, service, celebration. Join them with nails of courage, and the cathedral will ring whenever truth strides through. Night nears its zenith, the lamps hiss victorious over mist. I step back, and you step forward. The courtyard's stones wait to echo your stride. Let the hidden razor rest upon your palm. Feel its cold sincerity. Inhale, and with that breath, commit flesh and spirit to harmony. Exhale, and with that breath scatter the last spores of fatalism. Speak, mind alight, I will think, therefore I will build. And the universe, ever responsive to candor, will answer with resources concealed from the complacent. Walk now, walk until the sky pales and the first bird pronounces matins. Then lay the day upon the anvil of primary intention. Strike the hammer of resolve once, twice, thrice, until sparks crown the edges of plan. Quake flesh, quake with holy anticipation, for the man who thinks has awakened, and the world, still half asleep, braces to be remade by that awakening.